Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to MCubed. Today is Theater Thursday, so we are going to be talking about what's coming out in theaters this weekend. And, it's kind of a big weekend. It is Barbenheimer weekend itself, so we will cover a little bit of Barbenheimer, the order that you should go see it, maybe some things Christopher Nolan himself tends to be talking about at the moment, because, old Christopher Nolan is the director of Oppenheimer. And we may even discuss a little bit about Greta Gerwig's future as well, because, she's the director of Barbie. So I think this one's going to be a little bit shorter today, probably about an hour. I'm going to guess we could go a little over, we could go a little under. Depends how the day goes. But let's go ahead and get started. I am excited for this topic, and let's jump in, y'all. I may have clicked the wrong one. 1 second. It's Theater Thursday. We may as well play the Theater Thursday intro. Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. Once again, thank y'all for being here. It's Barbenheimer Day. I'm pumped. I have Oppenheimer tickets for tonight, and then I have Barbie tickets for tomorrow morning at 9:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. So this stream tomorrow, Film News Friday, is probably going to be a little bit later than usual. I'm thinking we may do like a 2 p.m. stream, which will end up being either like a 4 or 5 p.m. stream for those on the East Coast, or East Coast Standard Time. And it'll probably be, what is that, 8 hours? But if 8 hours ahead of us, so yeah, it'd be like 9 o'clock over in England, I think, roughly 8-9 p.m., something like that. Or 9-10 p.m. I guess would be the proper time, as they say. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, and I will keep you posted. But tomorrow will be a little bit later of a stream for Film News Friday, because Barbie is in the morning. But tonight is Oppenheimer. I'm excited for it, and I think I'm seeing it in the right order. Of course, what order are you going to go see it in? Are you going to go Barbie, then Oppenheimer, in the chronological sense of the term Barbenheimer? Or are you going to go Oppenheimer and Barbie? What I'm doing, and what I feel like most people are going to end up doing, or not necessarily end up doing, I feel like those of us that are truly film people that are really excited to go into these things are going to probably see Oppenheimer first and then Barbie, because Oppenheimer is going to be a deep movie, and there's going to be a lot in it. It's going to probably be very emotional in a lot of senses, and not emotional and like, oh, it's going to make you cry. It's not The Notebook or anything like that, but it will, I think, be. It's not Sound of Freedom either. That's not necessarily a thing to compare it to, because comparison's a killer, as they say. But I would say it fits more in the Schindler's List, Sound of Freedom, whatever category. Where, like, I don't know if this is going to be one people are going to go rush back to see a couple times, but I think it's going to be one that everybody goes and sees once. I think Barbie is going to have a huge, giant opening weekend, and we'll see how its legs are over time, where I think Oppenheimer has the chance to beat out Barbie over time. Maybe? Possibly. What are your thoughts there? Who wins the weekend? I'm pretty damn positive it's going to be Barbie. And then who is going to win box office over time? Thoughts? Because, I believe currently Oppenheimer is sitting at a 63 to 68 million proposed opening weekend. And I believe Barbie's anywhere between 100 million and 158 million. I think 140 to 158 was like the high ball that I was seeing, which that would be insane. But at the same time, it's over 4,000 theaters that Barbie's premiering in this week, which is insanity as well. Because, usually a wide release film, which is released all across the United States, probably the world, but domestically is the way we're speaking at the moment, they're usually between 2,200 and 3,800 theaters. And Barbie, I think, is 4,200 plus, but I know it's over 4,000, which is insanity. good insanity, yes, and I think it's going to help eyes get on it. And I trust Baumbach and I trust Gerwig, so I think it's going to be written very well. I think it's going to be directed very well. I'm a little iffy just from the first kind of reviews I have heard of Barbie, but I think it's going to be good. I'm going to go in with a completely open mind. There's not going to be an agenda or anything like that going in there. It's, as always, go into a film, open mind, hope for the best, and see the subjective opinion I come out with after the fact. But I'm very excited for Oppenheimer. I have loved all of its first reviews. People have said Paul Schrader said it was the most important film of the frickin' century so far. And a lot of people have been saying it's the best film of the year, or if not the best film of the year, one of the 2 or 3, So I really, obviously, I'm a big Chris Nolan fan. I love sci-fi, and he's a big sci-fi guy. Doesn't always do sci-fi, but is really good within the sci-fi realm. So, I love me some Chris Nolan. I'm pumped. And while we're on Chris Nolan just a little bit, he was talking about so Star Wars wise, I don't necessarily think he's going to do a Star Wars movie anytime soon, but he did put his hat in the ring for Bond, which was interesting. But Star Wars wise, he was on I think it was I don't remember what show, but it was either a yes, no, or pass kind of scenario where those were the only answers he could really give. He gave a pass answer for Star Wars, which just leaves the door open. And that is interesting in and of itself. He said no to more superhero films and then immediately said pass on Star Wars, which is please. My guess with that, though, is he's going to be waiting not only to see how Dave Filoni's film comes out, because if Ahsoka does really well, and then Dave Filoni's Star Wars film that ties into Mando, Ahsoka, and all these other things does really well, I think that'll just reinvigorate filmmakers wanting to do Star Wars again. If James Mangold's film does well, I think that puts Chris Nolan's possibilities much higher up on the ladder. And I think that's because they're not similar filmmakers in what they do, but they're similar filmmakers in their ability to direct. I think Chris Nolan is probably the better filmmaker at the end of the day, and that's just because he's got you've seen his repertoire. He's made phenomenal films. And James Mangold has also made phenomenal films. Of course, Logan being the one that really stands out. I think Ford versus Ferrari stands out even more for me personally, but I adore Logan. And that's the one that most people will look to and remember fondly, I guess. The Wolverine, which was the 2013 movie with the Wolverine in it, I think was really good as well. I really enjoyed it. You can see where some studio interference may have gotten in the way a little bit, but Logan, that's magnum opus of comic book movies kind of level. It's amazing. And then, 3:10 to Yuma, and he's done a half a dozen other things that are all really, really well done. I personally love Ford versus Ferrari, though. So that's where I've got faith in James Mangold. And he was originally going to make a Boba Fett movie. So I feel like his love for Star Wars is high enough that he's going to do well. And if someone who loves Star Wars that is an excellent filmmaker, like Christopher Nolan, wants to come in after the fact, hey, let's see it happen. And if I don't remember how to pronounce her name, Sharmid Obnoy Chinoy. I know that was not anywhere in the right ballpark, but I don't remember exactly how to say her name. There's a sh, there's an ob, and there's a chamoy. I know it's not chamoy. I'm thinking little Latino candies right now. Actually, chamoy sounds pretty nice. Anyway, I could go walk down anywhere on this block and get some chamoy. I'm not gonna do that right now. We're streaming, and honestly, I gotta stick on diet. But anyway, yeah. I think Chris Nolan would do a really good Star Wars film. We kind of talked about it the other day a little bit. I feel like it wouldn't necessarily get into the Force and all that much unless I really just don't see Christopher Nolan getting into the Force unless it's like that whole celestial, like beginning of time Star Wars kind of thing, and he really goes back further than Mangold. And I think that's why I think if Mangold inspires him to be like, hey, Disney, or hey, Lucasfilm, whoever it's owned by, still probably gonna be Disney. Let's make a movie. I bet you it'll be because Mangold did that well and had a kind of a open sandbox of his own to play in, being that early. Because Mangold's giving us like the very first Jedi, so I'm assuming we're going to the Jedi or the Jedi, not the Jedi, the Jedi, which was a whole that there's a lot of lore. I could explain it to you in another stream, but you have to ask me for it first, because we could just end up talking for another 4 hours about that kind of stuff. But to go even before that and get into the conceptualism of Star Wars and really jump into like the Force, the Celestials, all the primordial beings that take their essence from, I guess, the Force and are spiritual beings, but physical beings at the same time. I feel like that may be a little wheelhouse to play in, which kind of gets a little Stargatey with the whole ancients being ascended. I can't even speak today. Being ascended and all. I think that's kind of similar in some senses, and that would be fun to watch Christopher Nolan play around with. But if he wasn't going to do a primordial force being or something, a celestial, to make a Star Wars film, I would think Chris Nolan would probably make it a lot more practical. If he's not going to go that super like ancient route, I think it'd be a lot more practical, modern. I don't think you'd see your typical smuggler or your typical Jedi or anything like that. I think it'd be I don't know what I would think it'd be. I think it'd be something that we wouldn't ever expect in some ways. And obviously, Chris Nolan, if anybody, could bring something like that to fruition and do well with it. So, come on! But all the speculation Star Wars-wise aside, he did put his hat in the ring for James Bond. He did, while doing so, said he essentially has to have full control, which I don't know if that means casting as well. I don't know if that just means like secondary and ancillary cast, and like the Broccolis couldn't choose James Bond because the Broccoli family that owns the James Bond IP, they're the ones who tend to choose who James Bond is. I could see Chris Nolan getting his way and saying, if I'm going to direct a James Bond film, you're letting me cast James Bond. But I could also see the Broccoli family saying, hey, we've had this for 60 years. You can write whatever you want to write. You can cast whoever else you want to cast. But this is James Bond. So I could see that going either way, and I don't necessarily think that would be such a big hiccup for Chris Nolan to sign up. If he put his hat in the ring for James Bond, I think he'd be willing to do it, even with the Broccolis saying, yeah, we're going to cast Bond. As long as he'd be able to write his own script, kind of either tie it in or not tie it into all the other James Bond as much as he wants. And, I don't know if he'd use Ray Fiennes as, as M, or I forgot, Ben Whishaw as Q. I don't know if he would continue that cast or recast entirely. I would assume he'd kind of recast entirely, but I'm not positive. It's Chris Nolan, so any which way could go. Yeah, it's interesting. I think he would be able to do it either way, but I think he'd prefer, obviously, to do it all in his own little world. That being said, what would you prefer? Would you prefer Nolan having full sandbox, kind of like Tenet? Do you think it might get convoluted or something like that? I think my least favorite modern James Bond is probably Spectre, where I think it could have been the best. Spectre really just didn't sit with me. I barely could tell you anything about that film besides Blofeld, and it opens up in Mexico. Like, I don't remember anything about it because I was just so utterly bored in the theater, and I saw it twice too. I fell asleep the first time. The second time, I was like, I want to fall asleep. And I really do like Daniel Craig as James Bond as well. He's either my second or my third favorite James Bond. I love Sean Connery James Bond. He's OG. He's just great. He's serious sometimes, and when he is, he's great. But that just suave, having a good time aspect of James Bond in that time, I really enjoyed. I think Timothy Dalton's James Bond might be my second favorite, though. I just love Timothy Dalton's acting abilities and capabilities. and he did kind of bring in a little bit more serious of a James Bond. I don't know if that the time period was ready for it at the moment, but I think Timothy Dalton's career has been better because of it. People have not necessarily typecast him, but he does kind of get typecast in his old age. But I love the typecast that he is. I'm talking. I haven't watched Doom Patrol, but I love that kind of role he has because it reminds me of the Penny Dreadful role he had, which was phenomenal. I loved Timothy Dalton in Penny Dreadful and that entire cast. The third season, the final season's a little iffy at times, sure, but who plays his? Oh, it's not Nanto Alonzi. Nanto Alonzi's way too large. He's big old football dude and Sweet Tooth. I can't remember the actor that plays like his servant slash friend slash military like war friend kind of guy. But oh god, I'm brain farting on her name too. Miss Peregrine's Home for Eva. She's also a James Bond girl. Eva Green. There we go. Eva Green's great in Penny Dreadful. Josh Hartnett is great in Penny Dreadful. Timothy Dalton's great in Penny Dreadful. That whole cast, the whole supporting and ancillary cast are all great. So I'm a fan of Timothy Dalton. I am. Roger Moore's up there too. And, I do like Pierce Brosnan just for being Pierce Brosnan, but I don't necessarily think he's one of my favorite Bonds. He's probably pretty middle tiered, somewhere in that range. But I do think Chris Nolan would make an amazing Bond film. Would he make a better Star Wars film, or would he make a better Bond film? He's done Inception. He's done Tenet. He's done Prestige, which I think would all kind of play more so into the Bond categories. Maybe as well as Dunkirk, actually. But I think Dunkirk would play better into Star Wars, that large, grandiose kind of space battle. And I think the Prestige, where it does play well into the spy stuff, would play very well into Star Wars as well. That illusion and stuff like that, because Interstellar, Memento, Inception also would play into Star Wars if you really wanted to do some mind-boggling, mind-bendy kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know which one he'd actually be. Would you prefer a Chris Nolan Bond film, or would you prefer a Chris Nolan Star Wars film? And what would you like to see out of either one of those? Because now I'm trying to piece together a Bond film from him, and I really just don't even know what to do. That could be anywhere between, like, Baby Driver, Extraction, and The Nice Guys, and what's the spy movie? And not The Nice Guys. The one I'm thinking of is God. The brain's really not working today, y'all. The Nice Guys? What was I thinking of? Oh, it's the guy Rich. Oh, A Man from U.N.C.L.E. There we go. I just kept bridging the gap and then eventually got there, but good Lord. Yeah, the Man from U.N.C.L.E. and a couple of those other kind of things, I think all those kind of things put together in a way, just because like scale, practicality, mixed in with a little spice. I don't think it's going to have as much like suave as The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or anything like that, but I think it'd be right next door, because I think Chris Nolan can do suave very well. He doesn't tend to all the time necessarily. He likes to delve into the gritty aspect of like people and their thought processes and insane conceptual like things going on, I guess. Interstellar comes to mind. Prestige comes to mind. Inception comes to mind. Tenet comes to mind. Memento comes to mind. Essentially everything besides the Dark Knight trilogy, which also still kind of comes to mind, But yeah, I think he could do really well with both of those. I think the Bond movie would be a little easier for him, if that makes sense. But I think the Star Wars film would be a fun kind of testament of his capabilities. Who was I watching? I was watching somebody yesterday or the day before, and they were talking about this, and they said for Christopher Nolan to become more than one of the greats and ends up being like to go from great to one of the greats, he may have to branch out into a couple different genres. Where I would argue he has branched out into a couple different genres, but something on that scale and to do like a James Bond film, a Star Wars film, what I think that would, if they turned out good, of course, if they were well made, well directed, and it turned out good, people liked them both critically and audience wise, then I could see him being considered one of the greats. He's right up next door to one of the greats for me, but I can understand where he may not truly fit the category. But yeah, what are y'all's thoughts there? Any thoughts at all? Y'all let me know. Really, that's kind of all I got. I said this was gonna be a short stream, like maybe an hour, but it might be half an hour. I'm not gonna do a smoke stream right now because I need to get some stuff done real quick. Right after this stream, prior to going to Oppenheimer tonight, of course. I've got a 9 p.m. tonight and a 9:30 in the morning. I'm excited. And then tomorrow on Netflix as well, is it You Cloned Tyrone or something like that, or Cloned Tyrone? One of the two. It's John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, and I think Teyana. Is it Teyana Paris in there too, or is it somebody else? I'm trying to think of just who I keep seeing in. I don't know if it's Teyana Paris or not. I might be misquoting that. I'm just trying to think of like the tweets I've seen, all the Twitters I've seen, with all the interviews of the cast. No. I was thinking it might be Dominique Fishback. Obviously not. She's just in Transformers, but those are the two people that come to mind first. Maybe I'm just blanking, and I don't know why, but I know Jamie Foxx and John Boyega are in there, so I'm pumped for that. That one I think will be a really good streaming movie, which I may do a ticket or skip it over. I may do an out of theater reaction. I don't know if I can technically do out of theater reactions for Netflix films, but I've done one for Werewolf by Midnight, which was a Disney Plus special featurette, and I think I did one for the Guardians of the Galaxy one as well. Maybe not. I think actually I could have done a ticket or skip it for that. I don't know. I'd have to look back. Yeah. Really, y'all. I hate to leave this early, but that may be all I got today. It's middle of the day already. We're in the second half of the stream typically, or are kind of starting to die down. Oh, hi Harris. Nolan would be better off doing Bond. Yeah, I think that's just more in his wheelhouse. I think that's definitely more in his wheelhouse. I think Star Wars would be excellent with him, but I almost feel like he needs to do a Bond movie or something like that to reinvigorate his want to do something outside of a passion project. Because I don't know if those are passion projects. I think they could turn into passion projects because he's passionate about both James Bond and Star Wars. I know he's a fan of both. So that could be fun to see. And I would really enjoy it. I really would. I think he would be an excellent Bond director and possibly even a better Star Wars director. But I don't think he's doing the Star Wars without Bond. And I really think the Bond movie could be good. I really do. I would love to see that, especially just The Prestige is my favorite Nolan film at the moment. And as much as I love Interstellar, Prestige does beat it out just a little bit. I love it's magic, but it's also, magic, sleight of hand, all these kind of things, and they're all done in camera, but there's also true just mind-boggling stuff in that. And of course, you watch it back after watching it once or twice, and it's not as mind-boggling because you can kind of start piecing things together, but then you have to really think about how the hell did he shoot this? Like, you shot Christian Bale playing two different characters that you don't necessarily recognize are two different characters, and You can start to see Christian Bale's performance, particularly, really shines after you've seen that movie one time, because then you really are like paying attention to exactly what's going on, and it just blows your mind, and it's great. Still has to be the Batman trilogy for me. I can't blame you. It's great. It's great. I do fit in that little weird category where I feel like Dark Knight Rises I do prefer over Batman Begins. I know I'm in probably the minority of people for that. I think both of those are really good movies. Dark Knight, though, is just, it's hard to beat. Can you beat it? I don't know if you can. It's that well made. It's that well directed. It's that well acted. It's just so well put together on every single front that you could hope for, you know? So I do have hope, especially with the Batman trilogy, just being that one form of IP that he's really done. Christopher Nolan doing Bond and Star Wars, I think, could work, and I think it would work because of it. Not because of a multitude of things, but the Batman trilogy is really like that shining star, that North Star that's like, yes, this guy can do it. He can also work within a sandbox that he does not create. He can work within a sandbox that other people have put forth for him, which is nice. I think that really stands the testament of filmmaking ability on his part to be able to do both sides of that and do it well. Pretty damn great. Think it's the second one with Joker is my favorite. The Dark Knight. Oh yeah, rightfully so. Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger literally died for that role, with how much effort and heart that he put into it. I almost said love, but I don't know if the Joker was full of love. I think he had a few different emotions going on at the time. Don't mean to make light of it, of course, but whew, it's a sad situation, but wow. That is a man dedicated to his craft. That's the good thing we can say about all that. Rest in peace, Heath Ledger. I would have loved to have seen what he. I mean, that guy would have been. He got an Oscar for, of course, playing the Joker, but who knows what he'd be doing right now? We all look at Joaquin Phoenix like those two. If they were in movies together, like they were already friends at the time. If they were in movies together now, still, and Heath Ledger were alive. I don't know if we'd have blockbusters the way we do, honestly, because we'd be still trying to go see their kind of stuff. We'd still have blockbusters the way we do, but it would be infinitely interesting. I mean, Heath Ledger would have been someone to tackle, like to try to get for all kinds of things. He might have been in like one of the new Star Wars movies. He might have been in the Marvel movies. And what characters would he have played? That'd be kind of a fun thing to think about. But it's something to ponder, because it was in some timeline somewhere, some multiverse somewhere. Heath Ledger is still alive, and he's still kicking ass, and just taking names. And I don't know. I might have to go visit that multiverse one day. Someone make some multiverse hopping technology. Let's do this thing. But yeah, y'all, I do apologize I was gutted when Heath got the role, but wow, he changed my mind. He was awesome. Yeah, the guy from like 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale going into The Dark Knight to play the Joker. I was too young to really like comprehend that at the time, but I would have been petrified, scared for something that I enjoy as much as Batman. You want that to be someone that you could, rely on. And Heath Ledger sure is not that you couldn't rely on it at the time, but he didn't have that gravitas. Besides maybe Brokeback Mountain, of course, that definitely brought him more gravitas. But people were terrified, and rightfully so. But thankfully, he did some amazing work and put on a performance like nobody's business. And it was gutting whenever he passed after. I remember that clearly. But wow, I can only strive to act that well one day. I don't strive to put myself in a scenario like that to act that well one day. I don't want to. I'm not that much of a method person. I like character acting, of course, but getting into method for a character like that, that doesn't sound appealing to me. You know, it's not that I couldn't do it or wouldn't do it, but it just doesn't sound appealing. You know, I'm a crazy bastard already. I don't need to be crazy crazy. I like the happy crazy. I don't need to be just thinking Jared Leto Joker, like sending rats to my co-stars. Like, negatory, Ghost Rider. Not for it. But yeah, we just hit the half-hour mark. I do apologize that I just don't have so much to talk about today. A little Barbenheimer. I'm pumped for it, but what are you thinking? What are you thinking? As we've got great reviews out on both of them, and we don't, but there are great reviews out for both of them. I hopefully will have great reviews out for you on both of them within the day, of course. But yeah, which one are you seeing first? I'm going Oppenheimer, then Barbie. Going black, then pink. Of course, I got my Infinite Horrors on today. Tomorrow I will be wearing pink. I think I got a nice little pink shirt with a strawberry on the back that says "Stay High, Berry Sweet" or something. And there's a big old strawberry pink shirt. I like it. It's my favorite pink shirt. But yeah, that's all I got. Once again, I wish I had more to say today. It's just, kind of light. So any news that there is, we're gonna save, of course, for Film News Friday tomorrow, which will once again be a little later. I think it'll probably be 2 p.m., maybe even 2 or 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'll try to put it like 1 if I can, though. Just depends how. I think Barbie is a 2 hour, like I want to say 2 hour 17. Is that the one that comes to mind? I don't know why those numbers come to mind, but 2 hours 17 minutes is the number that comes to mind. I know it's over 2 hours. I don't think it's 2.5 hours though. Yeah, so I'm excited for those. I think if it's a 9:30, begins at 10, because 25 minutes of previews, 2 hours, noon. I'll be back here by noon 30, 12:30 if it's not. So hopefully a 1:15, 1:30 start time. That'll be my goal. I may want to eat a little bit too before that. So it might be 2 o'clock, but it should be in that 2 o'clock range. What'd you say over here? No problem. Enjoy the films. Well, thank you. I will let you know if they're worth watching after the fact, of course, because I know it's hard to get to a cinema how far away you are. But I'll let you know if it's worth checking out as it comes on streaming, as it comes out in DVD, video on demand, Blu-ray, etc., because that's what we do around here. That's what we do around here. But we shall roll that outro and get on out. So thank y'all for coming here and being here. I appreciate it. I forgot my spiel. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell down there. There's a Woodrow affiliate link down in the description below. And there's also a Patreon. So yeah. Thanks. And there's my spiel. I forget my spiel half the time, which I should probably do a little earlier. I don't feel good about asking people to do it so much, It's just kind of like, do it if you want to. Thank you. I appreciate it. But you know the deal. Thank y'all again. I really do appreciate y'all being here, and come back to MCubed for more movie loving.